In this episode, I'll be exploring some of the most surprising and interesting similarities between Islam and Buddhism. Welcome back, guys, to another FTD Facts episode. My name is Leroy Kenton, if you don't already know, and I'm personally very interested in both of these religions, Islam and Buddhism, although Buddhism is more like a philosophy than a religion, but you guys know what I mean. All right, so let's jump into this episode. The first thing I want to look at number 10 is the similarity that they are global religions. Both Islam and Buddhism are global religions with many followers around the world. There are approximately 1.9 billion Muslims worldwide. That's about 24.9%, and this is according to the 2020 global population, making Islam the second largest religion in the entire world, behind Christianity. And for Buddhism, it's also a very large religion and it's practiced worldwide. It's estimated that there are about 535 million people around the world that practice Buddhism. And that makes up between 8 and 10% of the total global population. And this is according to stats of the World Population Review of 2021. Now, the similarity at number 9 is both Islam and Buddhism promote good and also promote the idea to abstain from evil. From a general standpoint, Islam and Buddhism, they strive for self-improvement as well as your betterment as a human being, and followers are expected to cultivate good values or virtues and do good to others, as well as avoid acts that constitute evil to other people. So even though, yes, these religions are different, this value is very similar. Now for number 8. Peace. Muhammad advocated a policy of non-violent resistance, and like Buddhism, Islamic teachings at their core call for peace as well as patience with other people. In the Quran, Surah 49 verses 10, it says, "Humanity is but a single brotherhood, so make peace with your brethren." And even the word Islam comes from the word salam, meaning peace. It's right there. Now, with Buddhism, there is an emphasis on peace and peaceful living, but this comes from a focus on suffering and ending all suffering. Within Buddhism, there is a large focus on inner peace or enlightenment. And then once someone reaches enlightenment, you no longer experience suffering, and your aim is to ease the suffering of others by aiding them on the path to enlightenment. Also, another big similarity is that these religions have two main branches. In Buddhism, the first branch is Theravada Buddhism. And Theravada Buddhism is believed to be the oldest form of Buddhism. Now, the term Theravada itself comes into use later on, but Theravada traditions uphold the monastic path, and it follows the older surviving recorded sayings of Buddha, and collectively this is called the Pali Canon. Then the next branch is Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana is a philosophical movement that really started to spread the possibility of universal salvation, offering assistance to practitioners in the form of compassionate beings called bodhisattvas. Now, the goal initially was to open up the possibility of Buddhahood, which is becoming a Buddha, to all human beings. Now, in Islam, the primary ideological differences is on the leadership of the Muslims following the death of the Prophet Muhammad. Those who followed the Prophet's closest companion, whose name was Abu Bakr, became known as Sunni, the followers of the Prophet's example, or Sunnah. That's where that word comes from. Now, those who followed the Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, became known as Shia, which is the followers of the Party of Allah, or Shi'atu Ali in Arabic. Sunnis focus on following the Prophet's example, whereas Shias focus on the lineage of Muhammad's family through a series of imams throughout history. Islam and Buddhism also call for charitable givings. Although both Islam and Buddhism perform an immense amount of rituals and practices, both of them share this practice, almsgiving. Generally, almsgiving can be defined in most religions as voluntary contribution to help those who are in need. And in the Islamic practice, almsgiving is actually one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And I'll break it down for you. The practice of almsgiving was that all adult Muslims that had capital and fortune were expected to give alms through the payment of zakat, which is an obligatory tax of 2.5% of the Muslims' total wealth, even including their estate and goods. And for Buddhism, there's no fixed requirements, it's just promoted to help those. Number 5, working towards salvation. How salvation is defined is different. However, the similarity that work on an individual's part is required in Islam and Buddhism to gain salvation. In Buddhism, anyone who understood the teachings of the Buddha could achieve salvation. So really, people live out their own fate and there's no one else to blame but oneself. So in other words, you have to work for your salvation yourself. No one's giving it to you. Now, the aim of Islam is salvation in the sense of escaping the future punishment of hell, which would be pronounced on the last day, the day of judgment. Now, Muhammad did teach that God or Allah has predestined some human beings to go to heaven or hell, but the whole idea of the message of Islam is to submit to Allah, and that's the means of salvation because Allah is merciful. Now, for number 4, pilgrimage is another big similarity. For the major Buddhists, there are 4 major Buddhist pilgrimage sites, and these apply to all Buddhists. These sites are Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, as well as Kushinangar. These pilgrimage sites, they compose of the core pilgrimage sites of Buddhism. Pilgrims, they pay their respect to Buddha as well as make offerings, and they chant and meditate and those sorts of things, as well as it's pretty much an important practice to show and renew your commitment to the path of enlightenment. Now, in Islam, the pilgrimage is known as Hajj, and this is a pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in Saudi Arabia, which every single adult Muslim must make at least once in his or her lifetime, and Hajj is actually the 5th pillar of Islam. Similarly, at number 3 we're going to be looking at is clergy. Buddhist Sangha made up of bhikkhus, and those are the male monks, as well as bhikkhunis, female nuns. The Sangha is actually supported by the common Buddhist, so they don't make any money of their own. Now in Islam, there are also clergy, but they exist in various different forms. You'll find imams who lead congregational prayer in a mosque, as well as sheikhs, mulanas, and muftis. Modesty comes in at number 2. In Buddhism, we find a teaching that dressing modestly is a purifying quality for every single person, not just for monks. The guidelines of Buddhist dress is less focused on the physical requirements though, and more on the type of clothing. Now, in Islam, of course, modesty is a big word associated with the religion. There is also a standard expected of men to keep themselves covered from their navel to their knees. But even seeing a shirtless man would be seen as inappropriate in many situations and looked down upon by other Muslims. And of course, for women, full body coverings are worn by them in an effort to avoid drawing attention, and because the Prophet Muhammad instructed his followers to draw their head coverings over their chests. And now, when we look at all these regulations and restrictions when it comes to modesty, it's said that they're made in an effort to remove the apparent emphasis on physicality and to create an environment of spiritual growth. And the similarity we're going to end off with at number 1 is that both have scriptures. The sacred book in Buddhism is called the Tripitaka, and it's also called a Pali Canon after the language in which it was first written. This is an ancient Indian language, and it is very close to the language that the Buddha himself spoke. Buddhism is based on the teachings of Buddha. One thing though, I gotta clarify though, is that in Buddhism, it is understood that the scriptures are teachings of the historical Buddha, who was not a god, or he never claimed to be a prophet or anything like that, as well as the scriptures are also based on the teachings of other enlightened masters. Now in Islam, the Quran is a sacred scripture, and it's believed by Muslims to be God's final revelation to humanity. The Quran was revealed in Arabic to Muhammad by the angel Gabriel over a period of 22 years. Now, there are some other sacred sources known as the Sunnah, which are the practices and examples of the Prophet Muhammad's life, as well as the Hadith, which are reports of what the Prophet Muhammad said or approved of. Alright guys, this brings us to the end of another episode. This was 10 surprising similarities between Islam and Buddhism. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you found it informative, useful, entertaining. I know some of these similarities, it's like, wow, you know, there's a whole lot, especially these being the religions, I would say, that I'm probably the most interested in learning about personally right now. So yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys thought about this video. Let me know down below in the comment section. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like, share it with a friend, family member, you know how it goes. And if this is your first time here to the channel, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted. As a matter of fact, we post daily, so come back every single day to learn something new here on FTD Facts.